I was feeling like there were so many different tasks that I had to do every week, every day, every month, every year running this fund. And I was like, how do I build structure around it? How do I do it in a simple way? How do I do it in a way where my team can help me? So this is very helpful in just being really real with yourself about what's coming in, because a lot of the times people will just spend all day, every day in their email inbox and they're not actually doing the things that they should be doing. It has been so illuminating for me. I cannot stress that enough. So I can better understand what's a waste of my time and what's not. Welcome to Trailblazers, the podcast where we sit down with contrarian tech leaders who found conventional success in unconventional ways. So on today's solo episode, we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics. This episode is called The Bucket Method, the 7-step system I use to manage my time. So for those who don't know me, I think about everything in buckets and numbers. That's how my brain works, percentages. That's how I think. And I have spent a lot of time thinking about how to manage my time. Any founder or honestly executive of any kind knows that there's a lot of things pulling for their attention, and it's really hard to figure out how to spend your time, how to spend it in the right ways, how to track it. And so this is my system. This is me like kind of behind the scenes, how I think about it. And we always iterated on it. So by the time you hear this, maybe there's an update. But for now, this is what I use. I'm convinced that most people do not have a time problem. They actually have a systems problem, and they don't have good systems around managing their time. We all have very limited time, but certainly some people do a better job managing it than others. When work has no structure, everything feels urgent, especially when you have a team of people relying on you. And so making sure that you're not bottlenecking them, that you're prioritizing the right things, this is where systems really help. And again, this bucket system is what we use at my firm. It's a clear set of processes and categories that makes my time intentional instead of accidental. Okay, so here's how I think about it. So I broke it down into 7 steps. As you can tell, I like numbers. I like buckets. Okay, so the first, think about every large task as a process. So pretty much everything from closing customers to fundraising to supporting our portfolio founders to managing people, right? Keeping them happy, keeping them employed. It's all a process. And if you don't think it's a process, think about it harder. It is a process. None of these are one-offs. And everything you repeat should have a structure to it and a way that you run it very clearly. So even something as simple as like performance reviews, that should have a very strict structure to it. Fundraising, checkups, before, during, after, all that stuff. There's like rules to operating that if you don't articulate them and you don't create structure around it, you're not going to be successful. Process is also how you scale yourself. So as you bring on more and more people, that is how you scale yourself. If you think you're the only one who can support your portfolio founders, you'll never be able to outgrow whatever limit you have, right? Maybe you can only support 30 people as an individual. Well, then your portfolio will never grow beyond that because there's no process. There's no people supporting you because you're not trusting anyone else to do it or to at least help you reduce the chaos. And then once everything becomes a process, time becomes the bottleneck, which means you need a system for managing it. And that is what this is. I will start, I guess, with the second piece, which is defining the buckets of your business. So this was, and I'll give just like a quick behind the scenes at how I think about it. I was feeling like there were so many different tasks that I had to do every week, every day, every month, every year running this fund. And I was like, how do I build structure around it? How do I do it in a simple way? How do I do it in a way where my team can help me? And so this is what we did. So the second step is to define the buckets of your business. So these are basically the categories that your work falls into. So for a GP like myself, the buckets would be like fundraising, deal flow and sourcing, portfolio support, firm operations, and marketing, right? That's like generally when you think about all the different categories of how I spend my time, everything fits into that pretty much. For a founder, the buckets could be maybe product, go-to-market, fundraising, hiring, internal operations. Every business is going to be a little different, but that's sort of a nice framework. Maybe if you're a content creator, your buckets are like video production, research, writing, events, operations. For an operator, your buckets might be strategy, people management, cross-functional work, internal operations. Maybe there's like an execution bucket where you actually like do the work. So every business and every person is different. We all have different categories for how we spend our time, but that's the first thing, is to identify what those buckets for your business are. And this really becomes your map. And if you don't have this map, you will feel behind because you won't have anything to like label. So spend time really thinking about these buckets. Make sure they feel really good. I will say for myself, I used to have 2 buckets that were separated, and over time we've combined them. I have sub buckets within the buckets, but we'll get to that. Right now, just come up with like let's call it 4 to 8 buckets that make up the categories of how you spend your time. So next, what we did is quarterly prioritization of the buckets. So again, take everything with a grain of salt, because this is just how our industry works, but things really shift on more of a quarterly basis. And for me, it helps keep things streamlined. Instead of we do set larger annual goals, but the quarterly for me allow me to be more nimble, because things really do shift by quarter. So, for Q4, for example, we had, let's say, 6 buckets. And let's say we were in a period of time where we were actively sourcing deals. That was our main focus. So we might say sourcing gets 50% of our time, as a hypothetical. And maybe we weren't fundraising, so fundraising only gets about 5% or 10% of our time, because maybe we want to spend some time with our current investors and spend some time with potential new investors. And then what else? Marketing, maybe that makes up 5 or 10% of the time. Again, depending on the firm. Internal operations, maybe that's 10% of the time. And then, you kind of like assign percentages. So out of 100, how do you split up your buckets? And this will change based on quarter. So like Q4, we have a very specific focus. Q1, our focus is shifting a little bit. Not drastically, but we think of it as like a sliding scale. So if, this one was 50%, now it's 45. If this one was 10, maybe now it's 20. And it allows us to have clarity on what really matters in that quarter, so that we can get to the work itself. On Trailblazers, we spotlight founders who succeed by doing things differently, not by following the playbook, but by rewriting it. Many of those unconventional builders and the VCs backing them run on Brex because it helps them scale with speed and focus. From smart corporate cards and high-yield banking to AI-powered expense management, Brex gives startups the financial stack they need from day one, so they can spend more time building and less time managing back-office operations. More than 30,000 companies, from breakout startups like Anthropic and Cursor to global leaders like DoorDash and Plaid, trust Brex to help them spend smarter and move faster. That's why we, as a venture firm and also the podcast, run on Brex too. Sign up at brex.com/trailblazerspod to get started and claim exclusive rewards. That's brex.com/TRAILBLAZERSPOD. RocketReach is the leading sales and lead intelligence solution trusted by sales, marketing, recruiting, and business development teams to grow their businesses. Whether you're looking for a developer halfway around the world, a C-level executive in New York, or a potential investor in Silicon Valley, we connect you directly. With RocketReach, you can easily access the most comprehensive, accurate compilation of emails and phone numbers on Earth. That puts you in front of the right people faster and backs you up with a database that reaches across industries, markets, and titles, using AI to continually improve the quality of your contacts. With RocketReach, you can reach anyone so you can reach higher. Many of you know I love cold outreach. It's been the root of many of my success so far, and this is the tool that I've used the whole time. Trailblazer listeners get 15% off any plan at rocketreach.co/trailblazers. That's rocketreach.co/trailblazers. I think what's also really helpful about assigning percentages is it's just about making decisions more mathematical versus emotional, and letting your inbox or whatever conference is happening for that week really dictate how you spend your time. And it really forces clarity. So that's how we should think about the quarterly prioritization. Then you're going to want to create your to-do list by working backwards from the quarterly priorities. So basically what you're going to want to do is set up, your like end of quarter goals, your end of month goals, and your end of week goals. And so what I do, and again, I'm being super transparent here, is I get very clear on my end of quarter goals based on those percentages. What are all the things I would want to get done by the end of this quarter, being really ambitious? What are the things that need to get done by the end of this specific month? And then what are the things that I need to do by this week? And every week, we kind of reevaluate and relook. And then at the start of every month, it's the same process. But you use these buckets as the overarching title for everything else. So you don't just list out like, we need to ping these 3 people on LinkedIn. Okay, why? Are they going to be potential investors? Are they going to be potential founders? Are they potential operators who might be founders? Are they just service providers? Why? Do they want to come to your events? All of that needs to fit into a bucket. And yeah, I think the big thing here is just making sure that your to-do list and your priorities fit what you actually need to do, not your inbox. So then the next step is tying your emails to every bucket. So your inbox becomes more of a diagnostic tool instead of a source of chaos. So basically what we do is, of all the buckets now, everything has a label. Everything has a label. And even actually we have some of them have sub buckets under them because we care about sort of the specific, making sure things are answered in certain specific buckets. But everything gets a label and everything has a color. And it's consistent across this quarterly prioritization, the to-do list, and the email inbox. So this makes it easy for a few reasons. One, you can see what color bucket is consuming your inbox. It was pretty wild. I thought that my time was being spent in one way, but then when I looked at my inbox, the colors actually did not match. So this is very helpful in just being really real with yourself about what's coming in, because a lot of the times people will just spend all day, every day in their email inbox, and they're not actually doing the things that they should be doing. Also, you can reply to the most important buckets first. So like if you are spending 50% of your time on a certain bucket, and that's obviously very important to you, those are the emails you can reply to first. But maybe your fundraising investor relations bucket is actually really important because those are people that have given you money. So that comes above the sourcing, right? Every fund is different. Every company is different, but you can actually get really clear on what matters to you and what should be replied to first. That's really important. You can also figure out what is safe to ignore and what you need to return to later. This is really huge for me because I do get a lot of cold inbound. It's great. I love it. But a lot of it does not need to be responded to quickly. It can be responded to when I have time and I can block out time in the calendar. So this really helps us move things around so that I am not looking through emails that I don't need to actually reply to quickly. And it can keep my week really focused on important tasks. This also, of course, you can probably guess this, but this really helps executive assistants really manage your own inbox too, because you can very clearly tell them these are the types of emails that matter. And often it's hard to really know and be inside someone's world if you're an assistant. So adding these labels really helps bring that color. And then the last piece that's very important. So this is step number 6, or second to last piece, but is tying your calendar to every bucket. So now we have quarterly prioritization, which we talked about. Then we have the to-do list. We talked about the email inbox. And now the calendar. So a lot of things that live in your inbox are going to flow to your calendar, right? So let's say you want to set up a meeting with someone. That person's label has a color. Let's call it yellow. When you set up a meeting with that person, you make the meeting yellow too. Because what's important is understanding your inbox is one source of how you spend your time, but your calendar is the ultimate. The calendar is the ultimate. If I look at my day, like right now, if I look at my full day, you will see a red 1 hour block and 2 orange blocks and then a big purple chunk. And then, you can see the colors, and it's so easy for me to visualize my week with colors and just gut check how I'm spending it. That is so, so, so valuable. So adding colors to your calendar goes such a long way. And I really feel like patterns start to become obvious. You can see what is being overweighted, what is being ignored, what does not align. And then what you can also do too is even like time blocking, where you say, Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is all orange. And so it's very easy for your assistant or even yourself to schedule out calls or review sessions or whatever it might be in that color, so that you can look back at your quarterly prioritization and know that you didn't completely miss the mark for that quarter. Again, your calendar really is the truth. So the more that you can true up all of this information into your calendar, the better. If you work in venture or startups, you know the constant juggling act. Replying to messages from co-investors, founders, LPs, customers, and teammates, all hitting your personal number. I know this very well. We all hand out our cell, which means your EA can't help an iMessage, and important threads get buried. That's why I'm very excited about Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's built for founders and investors like us who want communication that feels personal but stays organized. Quo gives you a dedicated business line on your existing cell phone. And if you already have a business number, you can bring it with you for free. Plus, you'll get call summaries, transcripts, and an AI voice agent called Sona that can answer and schedule when you're offline. We're actually cooking up something fun with the Quo team right now and using that same voice AI tech in a new way for our firm. More soon, but it's a great reminder that you can use voice AI to stay top of mind of your customers' needs. Quo is trusted by over 90,000 businesses and rated #1 on G2 for customer satisfaction. You can get 20% off your first 3 months at quo.com/trailblazers. That's quo.com/trailblazers. So I've actually used Gusto at 3 different companies, and every time it's been such a relief. It's simple, it's reliable, and my paycheck was always on time, no drama. And unlike the big clunky payroll systems out there, Gusto is online payroll and benefit software specifically built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. For smaller startups in particular, I have found that it's the most affordable and easy to set up option, and it's the one that we recommend to all of our startups at our firm. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/trailblazers and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/trailblazers. One more time, gusto.com/trailblazers. And then the final piece, this is step 7, but it's tied to step 6, is gut checking your time allocation with AI. So once everything has been bucketed, AI becomes your personal COO, and we have a really great system that we use that evaluates the colors across my calendar and tells me exactly how I'm spending my time. And then, of course, it can tell you how closely that's matching to your quarterly priorities. It can tell you what buckets you're avoiding. If there's any bottlenecks, like if you said you were going to focus on a certain area, but you haven't been doing that for multiple weeks, it can flag that. This is like the performance review that no one gives you, especially if you are a founder like myself and you sometimes feel like you're your own boss, but you have a lot of things that people need from you. This is such a valuable trick, and it has been so illuminating for me. I cannot stress that enough. Not only in empowering my assistants to help me manage my time, but also so I can better understand what's a waste of my time and what's not. And AI, of course, helps you course correct before a whole quarter goes by. So, you can gut check it by looking at the colors on your calendar, or you can use tooling. The company that we use, we'll link it in the show notes. It's called Time Navi. I think that's what it's called. It's great. We tried several tools. That's the one we use and we like. We're not investors, no affiliation whatsoever, but we do really like using it so far. We'll let you know if that changes. But yeah, this is our system. And when you're a high achiever, especially if you're a founder, your time is so valuable and it's always oversubscribed. There's always more people that want to get coffee with you or want to meet with you than you have the time for. And so it's really important to not outwork the volume, but to just outsystem it. And without the structure, the noise will always drown out your priorities. Your inbox will always be full. There will always be new emails coming in, but you have to be really intentional about how you spend your time. And taking a beat to build these systems is really, really worth it. So we're coming up now. I guess I don't know when this episode's airing, but whenever it is, it's always worth it to spend like a weekend or even like a week pausing things, even a day, right? Really making sure your systems are in check and trying out this bucket method. It's worked tremendously for us, and I hope it works for you. So let me know what you think if you do try it. If you have another calendar system that works for you and time management system, please let us know. But that is how we're thinking about things. On Trailblazers, we're always talking about multiplying your impact, and that's exactly what Athena helps you do. Athena pairs you with a world-class executive assistant who becomes a true force multiplier for your business and your life. Working with my Athena assistant has been transformative. Gab was instrumental in raising Park Rangers Capital's fund in ways that I could have never imagined an assistant could contribute. From closing 6-figure checks to identifying new LPs we should meet to matching my tone perfectly in follow-up emails. He's elevated my capacity as a founder by giving me more time to focus on the highest leverage work. Athena isn't just about scheduling meetings, it's about unlocking leverage. Hundreds of founders, investors, and executives trust Athena to free their time and scale their impact. Athena is offering our listeners $2,000 off for their first year of service and priority onboarding. And you want that, trust me, there's a very long wait list. When you're ready to multiply your impact and free up time for the things only you can do, go to athenago.me/Erica-Wenger. That's athenago.me/ERICA-WENGER. Thanks so much for listening to the Trailblazers podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. You can also support our work by sharing it with a friend or leaving a quick review. It helps more contrarian builders find us. For more on Park Rangers Capital and our community of elephant founders, head to parkrangerscap.com or find me online at Erica_Wenger. Until next time, keep trailblazing.